So Karen, thank you very much for joining us at Multicore World. It's a real pleasure to have you here. And why? What made you choose Multicore World?
Well, it's great to be here, Nicholas. It's always good to come back to New Zealand and think about ways that we can all help New Zealand to move into the future and the role of computing and how it can impact things. One of the big reasons to come here was looking at the list of people that you had coming and recognizing how you had thought leaders from all over the world. It's really quite amazing how you brought those people together. So I was really excited to come and be a part of all these discussions and learn something, and I have already learned a ton from the talks that we've had so far.
That's wonderful. We are trying to create a community here, and then I always believe that your work on digital twins, which is pioneer in the world, can give us, move us ahead, but at the same time we have a lot of challenges, and I'm particularly interested in what I could call mathematical low level or the background, and that's something that can be done anywhere in the world. You don't necessarily need the state-of-the-art technology. Do you think that we can create a little ecosystem from New Zealand, for New Zealand, in particular with certain industries like the primary sector, towards the future, instead of just being technology takers, instead of just following the main technology centers?
Absolutely. So, as you heard me say yesterday, often when I'm thinking about the future, I think about the past. And I think back to my undergraduate days. So I did my undergraduate degree at the University of Auckland in a degree that's called engineering science. And so what is engineering science? The degree was part computational engineering, continuum mechanics, and part operations research. And that department was, and still is, but particularly back then, was world famous because it had many of the world's leaders, particularly in operations research. I mean, it had a worldwide reputation that batted well above what you might expect for New Zealand. And just like you said, these kind of mathematical, computational innovations, they can take place anywhere. So you could look back and you could say, what was so special about that department? And a big part of it is the people. A huge part of it was the partnerships. Just to give one example, Dave Ryan's work in optimization and scheduling for Air New Zealand and the partnership with the airlines, that was revolutionary and right at the frontiers at the time. Andy Philpott, who's still there at the University of Auckland, who is a world leader in stochastic optimization, and the work he's done with energy companies and thinking about how to manage energy resources and decision making under uncertainty.
But still that work is largely unknown for the general, if not that the general New Zealander, perhaps of the decision takers. I always say that the New Zealand government is the largest venture capitalist. I mean, we see decisions in the United States about funding through DARPA or NSF, or why in New Zealand we're not having this? I mean, do we need a Crown Research Institute specialized for computer science or just data science? Or what can make, it's a obvious difference of scale between two countries, but being nimble, it's an advantage. What would be the next step to make things happen?
No, I think those partnerships are key, and we heard this morning from Doug talking about exascale computing project. And through all that, you realize the important role that the Department of Energy National Labs, the national labs in the US, play such a huge role in connecting industry, academia, and then the national labs kind of there in the middle, and pushing forward the frontiers of computing. So you ask the question, is it time for a Crown Research Institute to step up and take some leadership on these topics, or is it time for a new Crown Research Institute? It's something that I think New Zealand ought to really seriously be considering.
Because a government official, and I'm not trying to tease anyone here, would argue, well, but a part of the scale of the country, okay, they have an industry towards direct certain research efforts, whilst the New Zealand market, it's certainly not at that scale, but I would argue that we have other industries like the primary sector, like dairy, like winery, that actually has been leveraging research that has been done for decades in this country. Is that, if not a model to follow, at least, some organizational structure? I'm trying to think differently. It's not a challenge. It's just think right. Together.
We often talk about the scale as being a barrier.
Yes.
And the scale is different, and we need to recognize that and embrace it. But a scale is not a reason to not do these things. And by the way, the opportunity here is not just to impact the markets within New Zealand, but for New Zealand to be a world leader on topics, especially topics that bring together climate, agriculture, aquaculture, managing our natural resources, and tackling some of humanity's biggest problems, New Zealand, we should be out in front on these. And it's very clear that computing, whether it's digital twins or however you like to frame it, computing has to play a huge role in that. So yes, I agree.
Do you have any comment with regards to Matauranga Maori, perhaps, as part of that new focus?
Yeah, so again, New Zealand has a long history of being thought leaders in the world, and I think the way in which the Matauranga Maori is worked into the decision making is really starting to become a part of the research ethos and the way that New Zealanders approach building for the future. I think it's something really to be proud of. And again, go back to what I was saying about these societal grand challenges. At the moment, we're talking about managing our land, and I know this is something that you think extensively about. But whose land is this? What is the responsibility we have to the past as well as to the future generations? So I think it's fantastic. But all these things have to come together and have to come in balance. And we can't underestimate the importance of investing in the technologies, like the computing technologies, the mathematical methods, and that partnership across the universities, the Crown Research Institutions, and the government and industry and everybody.
Yes, yes. Thank you very much, Karen. Thank you very much.